The Seahawks head coach Mike Macdonald has done another interview this week, this time with Aaron Levine from Fox 13. Go and check the interview out in full. You can find it on Aaron Levine's Twitter account at Aaron Levine _. But I find it really interesting that yet again, with an opportunity to commit in any way, shape, or form to Geno Smith, that the head coach has not taken that. And I just wonder why. And for all of the people out there who say, nah, Geno Smith, he's Seattle's quarterback. That's it. It's all sorted, done, dusted, confirmed. Answers like this suggest it is a conversation still worth having. So Aaron Levine asks, are Geno Smith and Drew Lock both involved in the future of the Seahawks organization? Mike Macdonald answers, that's a tough question. It's one that I probably can't answer right now. We're doing a lot of work on those guys. Obviously, one or two or both would fit into our plans going forward. But right now, I don't have an answer. And that answer to that question would make complete sense if both of them were free agents. But they aren't. We're well past 5 days after the Super Bowl now, where Geno Smith's contract guarantees kicked in. They've accelerated the bonus he was due on March 18th. He's been paid that. Right now, it will cost the Seahawks $27 million for Geno Smith to go and play somewhere else in 2024. There's absolutely no reason whatsoever to be non-committal on Geno Smith and his future with the Seahawks if he's still going to be here. Now, it's different with Drew Lock because he may go and play somewhere else. He may want to go and play somewhere else. There is no guarantee that he's going to re-sign with the Seahawks. But you could just say, Geno is contracted with us. We're very much looking forward to seeing what he can do in this new offense. We'd like to bring Drew Lock back, but we'll see what happens there. You know, we hope to make that happen. That would have been an answer that anybody could have given, any coach could have given, and no one would have batted an eyelid at that. But Mike Macdonald is, again, being really, really vague, just as John Schneider has been, about what their intentions are at quarterback. And I find that fascinating. I find that really interesting. Like, I know a lot of people just think that the Seahawks quarterback situation, it's done. It's Geno Smith. Some people think he's the franchise quarterback. Do you think the Bills would talk that way about Josh Allen, or the Chiefs about Mahomes, or the Bengals about Joe Burrow? They wouldn't. They'd be able to answer that question easily. So what's going on? Now, I'm just so interested to see what exactly is the thought process here. I'd love to know what they truly think about Geno Smith. Because even if they thought, do you know what? We like him, but he's just a bridge, you would still talk in more positive terms than that. You would still be talking about Geno Smith. Neither the head coach nor the GM has spoken in the future tense about Geno Smith. As far as I can tell, neither of them have talked about next season with Geno. Now, Ryan Grubb has talked about looking forward to working with him and stuff like that and getting to know them, both of them. I mean, he said he was giving new parent advice to Drew Lock, who's just had a child. That was a little bit more throwing it forward from Ryan Grubb. But the two main people who matter are the head coach and the GM. And neither of them have said anything about next season with Geno Smith. Maybe that'll happen. Schneider will speak at the Combine. He will do an interview. So we'll get to know what he thinks. Hopefully, someone will ask a question like Aaron Levine asked of Mike Macdonald. What is the future of Geno Smith? What is the future of Geno Smith and Drew Lock? It was a really good question from Aaron Levine and a fascinating answer. And let's see what John Schneider has to say this week, given we are a few days on from that bonus being accelerated. And maybe John Schneider will come out in Indianapolis and go, we're very much looking forward to seeing Geno Smith next season and seeing how that works out. I just get the sense, though, that they are completely keeping all of their options open. They don't want to say a word that comes back to bite them down the line. That if they say, Geno's our guy or anything like this, or we're looking forward to next season with Geno Smith, and then they move him, it seems that they are conscious of that completely, which makes me think that if nothing else, they are going to be open to offers at the Combine and they will take it from there. And that they are just, that all of this stuff around Geno and sort of keeping him is just a complete hedge for the future. That the last thing that they want to do is go into the draft with, let's say, only Drew Lock on the roster, or Drew Lock and another quarterback who is cheap, is a veteran that no one realistically expects to win a starting job in the NFL. If they go into the draft having hedged without hedging, and they have Lock and another, then they are sending a message to everybody else in the NFL. Our intention is to draft a quarterback. If you have that intention to draft a quarterback, but you already have Geno Smith and let's say Drew Lock or another on the roster, then it masks things a little bit more. Teams will not assume that you are going to draft a quarterback. They may think you might, especially because you've hired Ryan Grubb, who used to be Michael Penix Jr.'s offensive coordinator, and there's a lot of teams going to be very interested to see what the Seahawks do and how they view Michael Penix Jr. But if you have Smith and if you have Lock on the roster, you're hedged. Then you can let the draft come to you. If you think Michael Penix, I'll take him in round 2 or round 3, but not round 1, and then you can get back into round 2, or if he's still there somehow in round 3, and you take him there, then that's fine. You've let the draft come to you. But if you miss out, you've still got 2 guys that you think, okay, we can have a quarterback competition, or we can have some depth at the position that we feel comfortable with going into the season. You're not in a hopeless situation, because the worst position to be in from a Seahawks perspective was to come out of the draft having missed out on the guys you actually wanted to draft, with only sort of Drew Lock as a realistic option. And Drew Lock has not convinced anybody in his NFL career so far that he can play consistent winning football, and that would be a problem for the team. So you do need to hedge against the draft, keeping Geno Smith and Drew Lock on the roster, and then going into the draft, you keep all of your options open, and then you can do it. You can take a quarterback if you want to move. If you don't want to take one, that's fine. Everything's open to that. But if you tip your hand too early in the process, then it's a problem. And I think that's what it's going to have to be. It's going to have to be somebody will come in. If somebody comes in and makes a big offer for Geno Smith, and they think we can't turn this down, that situation is a bit more acceptable for them, and they can talk up Drew Lock, they can bring him back and say he's the guy, he's the starter, and all of this stuff. But until they get that offer for Geno Smith, I think they're just hedging, 1, for Geno Smith's situation, and 2, for the draft. But there is absolutely no way, as much as people might want to try and make this the reality, that you can listen to anything that John Schneider and Mike Macdonald have said and think that Geno Smith is the long-term option at quarterback for this team, short of him being on the roster next year and playing better than he's done in 2023, which was, as John Schneider has said it himself, was a bit hit and miss. He had as both seasons were, he said a good start in 2022, didn't finish well. Had a tough start in 2023, did finish well. So it's been mixed, but that's what the GM is telling you. When he was asked to review Geno Smith, that's what he said. He was not as glowing as some members of Seahawks Twitter have been about the way that Geno Smith has played. And there's a lot of people out there who want to say that. And listen, you may choose to just completely ignore all this. There are certainly a lot of people out there going, they're just, I'm not reading into any of this. I'm not reading into Adam Schefter saying his trade value has just gone up. As Mike Florio quite rightly points out, everything that Adam Schefter does is quid pro quo. He has put that message out there that the trade value is now really good because his salary is low. It's even lower now that the Seahawks have committed to the bonus, that it presents good value for other teams. There was a reason why he put that out. And if you can't accept that, and if you can't sort of see what's happening with Mike Macdonald, I'm afraid to say that you're being really naive. There are none so blind as those who won't see. It doesn't mean that Geno Smith won't be on the roster next year. He could be. But what it does mean is the Seahawks are keeping their options open. They are being deliberately vague. They have so far failed to commit to Geno Smith. Maybe John Schneider will do that this week when he speaks to the Combine. We shall see. But it is impossible to look at this situation as anything other than murky, without clarity. And the Seahawks are going to, whatever their plan is, they're not making it obvious. Because if it was just, we're going to go with Geno Smith and we hope to re-sign Drew Lock, Mike Macdonald would have said that. And it just, the thoughts in my head right now, and maybe this is what the Seahawks want. Maybe they want to confuse everybody. Because sort of yesterday I'm sat there and I'm thinking, I'm going to write this article about defensive line, that when you actually think about it, they're picking 16th overall. They might not be able to trade down. They might just want to, what have they done the last 2 drafts? They've just stuck and taken the best player available, whether that was, in their view, Charles Cross, Devin Witherspoon, Jackson Smith and Jigba. They haven't reached for need. They've just sort of let the board come to them. And if they end up staying at 16, when the ball comes to them, it's going to be a trenches player who's probably best player available. Whether that's one of these great offensive tackles, and they could move Abe Lucas inside, or if it's a Fuag or a Furtado or somebody like that, they can move them inside instead. You know, they improve their talent level on the offensive line, or it's going to be defensive linemen like Chop Robinson or Jared Verse, who are sensational players. Now I'm starting to wonder whether or not they will persevere with the quarterbacks after all, because, you know, they've shown that they are not going all in on the guys on the roster. And it makes you wonder when you sort of look at the quarterback class and you think, yeah, I can see why they'd like that player. I can see why they'd like that player. I can see why this rookie might make sense for them, why they might want to start a rookie at the start of a new era. So there's all sorts of kind of thoughts that go in your mind. Again, like I say, maybe they like that lack of clarity. They want to keep teams guessing. They might want you to think in the draft that they want to go for a quarterback when actually they are looking at that pass rusher or that offensive lineman, or they are trying to trade down or whatever it is. So I think there's a lot of different things going on here, but I do find it interesting. And like I said, like whether Geno Smith is going to be here next season or not, I still think based on the $27 million dead cap here, that it will take an obscene trade offer for him to go. I do not think they're going to get an obscene trade offer. I think the best he could get is probably like a fourth rounder for a player who is 34 this year, who has been a journeyman up until his 2 years in Seattle, who has had really good moments, but has had some not so great moments either. I just don't think there's going to be a big market for him. He was a free agent last year, and the only other team he got linked with other than Seattle was Tampa Bay. And even then, no one was really believing he was going to go and sign for the Buccaneers. It kind of felt like it was the Seahawks and who else for Geno Smith. So I don't think there's going to be a big market for that. I don't think he's going to get traded. I do think he's going to be on the roster next season for the Seahawks. The chances are that he will be starting for the Seahawks as well. But how can you just ignore how non-committal they are being when they talk about the quarterback who they have contracted on the roster right now, who has been the starter, that a lot of people feel is a franchise, quote unquote, quarterback for the Seahawks? They will not commit to him. They have so far refused to talk about him in the sense of 2024. And I find that really, really interesting. Anyway, Combine starting this week. Huge week of Combine coverage coming up. We'll have live streams galore this week. Robbie Williams is actually going to be in Indianapolis to watch the Combine workouts. He'll be joining us to talk about all of that. Loads of articles. Live blog will be going ahead on SeahawksDraftBlog.com. And make sure you check out the website, because today an 11,000-word Seahawks heavy Combine preview is available for you. So please go and check that out. Please share it if you can, because it took absolutely ages to write. So I'd really appreciate all of your support for that. And if you further want to support both the blog and the channel, make sure you subscribe to this, like the video, leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think about all of this Geno Smith talk and Drew Lock talk and the way that Mike McDonald conducted that interview and the answer that he gave to Aaron Levine. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Until next time, bye for now.